Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And hello, YouTube Live. And I wanted to do a live tonight talking about the devastating Texas flash floods in Texas Hill Country that took the lives of at least 120 people. And many of them were teenage, pre-teenage, and teenage young ladies. They were at a camp called Camp Mystic in Texas, and there were about 750 children at Camp Mystic when the floods hit. And I wanted to talk about what is really going on in our world today and with Mother Nature. Are there some biblical signs that are taking place? What are the effects of these deaths of these teenage and preteen children and their family and the effects of that? It has to be a devastating scenario where you are sending your child to a camp for enjoyment and fulfillment, a nurturing scenario for development of intellectual development, physical development, emotional development, and then this catastrophic scenario takes place, and you're sending your children off, hopefully to a safe place, and then you get a call that the worst possible thing could ever happen, and it was catastrophic. And not only your child, but friends of yours. You know how it is in communities, in the suburbs, in the cities. Many of these individuals, they probably went to these kids probably went to the same schools. The parents know each other. Uh, there are competing schools and neighboring schools. And so this has to be devastating across the entire state, and let alone the region there in Texas Hill Country. So for people in my age group, for my followers, I mean, just try to put yourself in those shoes. And there's a panacea of emotional strife that's going through that whole situation. I mean, even think about uh, the camp advisors, the person or the people that own the campsite, how they're affected by it. What about the rescuers who are rescuing and finding uh, these young individuals and finding these people in the worst way possible, recovering deceased preteen and teenage girls? It has to be a devastating scenario across the board. And in doing this live, I wanted to mention that just we all get caught up in our own lives and the things that we're doing, and we never think that those things can happen to us. Part of my YouTube channel is to provide exposure and involvement and letting you know some of the things that are taking place throughout our country, throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world, just to raise our level of consciousness and our awareness. I'm not trying to propagate or highlight devastating things, but I think it's important for us to be aware that good things and bad things can happen around us at any slight of the moment. We are being toppled in America today by the opioid crisis, homelessness, helplessness, inept inner city public schools, fatherless homes. And just when you think that you are removed from that scenario, uh, crime and decimation could knock at your front or back door. And none of these parents in Texas thought that they were sending their kids to a death trap. And that's what happened. But also, we got to talk about that that place had a history of floods, and they had no siren alerts or anything of that nature, uh, or or even were equipped for it or had it as a device. That's a real issue, and I think that's a human error for that part of Texas. If you have a history of floods, they call it flood country, then there should be some kind of precautionary measure to let folks know if they're at campsites, if they're in these isolated scenarios, that there's possibly a flood that could take place. They had 750 children there. And you telling me that there were no sirens applicable to letting folks know? I think that was a profound human error. And I think in today's time, in 2025, we should not have to have a scenario of our loved ones being lost and losing over 120 of our future children to a flood to realize that we need to do something different. We're in the most sophisticated society today. We're a first world country. This is the United States of America. That situation that happened in Texas looked like a flood in a third world country that we've seen before, whether it's in the Philippines or any of these other countries that are bordered by the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean. And you all know that part of this came from the Gulf, and I think it was Hurricane, don't quote me on it, Hurricane Bobby or something like that, that precipitated all of this precipitation and this rain into the Guadalupe River. You already know that there's an adjoining river to this campsite. This campsite has been there for years. I have the story here and I'm looking at it. I want to say that this campsite has been there for 50, 60, 70 years. So this is a repetitive thing that takes place each and every year. And you would think that there would be some parameters and some checkoff points to let folks know in this isolated area with these young children to have some kind of alert system to get them out of there. So that our government and our systems in Texas failed these children and their families. But what is also going on? What we got to ask the question, even from a biblical standpoint, if one reads the Bible or has some kind of religious component to themselves, is this the end of days? Just look at what has taken place in the last year and a half to 2 years. You had Hurricane Helene that hit North Carolina and the East Coast all the way down to Florida a year and a half ago, that decimated billions of dollars of damage. You have to remember in the last 8 or 9 months, you had, so that was the hurricanes. Then you had the wildfires in LA County, billions and billions of dollars of damage, loss of life that took place in LA County. Then right here in St. Louis, where I'm staying, we just had a horrific, devastating tornado that caused $1.6 billion worth of damage and over 8,000 buildings that have been destroyed here. What is the telltale sign that is taking place? Is Mother Nature telling us something? Is there a climate issue? What in the world is going on? You have Elon Musk, you have Jeff Bezos that are sending rockets into space. Of course, we also have, our government has their own aerospace and rocket departments that are entering the atmosphere. And it makes you wonder what in the world is really going on. And now, as we speak, you have devastating fires taking place in the Grand Canyon. These natural disasters. And just when mankind, the Elon Musk of the world, the Jeff Bezos, think that they potentially are the smartest people in the room, there is a spiritual being or entity that is showing us as humans that we're not the smartest folks here on earth. These are disasters that are taking place that come right out of the Bible. You have fire, wind, hurricanes that are taking place. And I just mentioned four natural disasters: Hurricane Helene, the LA County fires, the tornado that just hits the city of St. Louis that has not happened in at least 70 years. You had this devastating flood that decimated at least 120 people. There are several people that are still missing in the Texas Hill country at Camp Mystic. And so I think as we continue to run around in this gerbil, uh, run around as a gerbil on this Ferris, on this, what do you call it? Not Ferris wheel, but on that wheel running super fast and not going anywhere. I think sometimes life is showing us that we need to take a step back and take a deep breath and appreciate our family members, appreciate our loved ones. Love is an action and a verb. Don't just believe individuals that tell you they love you, they have to show it. We have to also understand that life is precious. And when you are living in the present, it is your gift. And you are trying to work your way to the next day, which is your future. And you should learn from your past. The day you stop learning is the day you stop living. And so we need to pay attention to these things that are taking place. And many times, like I said, we get so caught up as that gerbil running in one place super fast and not going anywhere that we forget some of the things that are happening in our surroundings. And then you get these reminders like this Texas flood that took place, and you have to think, man, what if that was one of your loved ones? Many of us have sisters, have daughters, mothers. Think about the PTSD for the survivors, the other young children that went through this decimating, incredulous scenario. They're going to need psychological therapy for the rest of their lives to see that their friends and their passed away or are missing. And they may even have survivor's remorse. Think about the rescuers who are doing a fantastic job trying to find these folks. What are they going to go through? I know a lot of firefighters and I know a lot of police officers. And they'll tell you the hardest part of their job, and this is both of them, is to find a kid deceased. Whether it's a police officer that goes to a shooting scene and finds a kid laying on the ground, 9, 10, 14 years old, just in the beginning stages of life, and you see them laying on the ground and knowing that you as an adult knows that it's over for that child. For firefighters, especially in fires, the hardest part for them as firefighters is find some kid that does not know how to get out of the house, and many of them will end up going into crawl spaces or even in the closets and balling up, and they end up dying from smoke inhalation and what have you. And to find those young children balled up like that is something that they cannot remove from their minds. So it takes a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude and a lot of professionalism for those rescuers to put on their rescue suits and to go out there in the effort to not only find individuals that are alive, but to find individuals that have died, and it's extremely painful and hard to find young people and even kids when you know that they had their entire lives in front of them, and to have a loss of life due to something that was uncontrollable. That's heartfelt. That shows your humanity, and we are losing our humanity each and every day with some of the crises that are taking place throughout our cities. As I mentioned, the opioid crisis, homelessness, joblessness, gun violence. This is a cautionary reminder that we need to take every day, take a deep breath, appreciate our loved ones. When you hear about these things on the news, uh, don't turn a blind eye, because crime, death, decimation, destruction can be at anyone's door. It is not separated by a zip code, by creed, color, or character at all. It can happen to anybody. And we have to say a big prayer for the families out there in Texas. The last thing that a parent wants to do is to have their child lose their life before they pass. One of our goals as a parent, for all of those who out there are parents, you want your children to outlive you. But we have to go back and ask ourselves, what in the world is going on in the last 2 years? Hurricane Helene, the LA fires, LA County fires, the tornado that just hit St. Louis, Missouri, the Grand Canyon that's on fire right now, this Texas flood that just took place. There are things that are taking place due to Mother Nature and the respect that we need to have for Mother Nature. And as I said, giving those examples where humans think that we're the smartest species on the planet and the creators. And I gave the examples of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, SpaceX, and all those things. We're going out to space and trying to figure out what's going on. We're not in control of anything. Man created a dam. God created water. And as you know, with Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, one of the things that flooded New Orleans was the breakage of the dam. Mother Nature let mankind know and humbled us and showed us that, listen, you could put any brick wall up you want. If I decide I want to destroy it, I will. And that was devastating. That was one of the worst hurricanes, definitely in my lifetime, with Hurricane Katrina. But we're having these telltale signs, and it makes you wonder, and for those who are listening, are we at the end of days, or is this part of the natural course of our existence and our life? And I try to do videos that raise your level of consciousness and exposure. Reading is key. We have gotten away from the intellectualism of our existence, and we want to chase the bag by any means necessary. Life is precious. Your most important commodity in life is your time. And you don't know how much time you will have, but you should cherish it each and every day. And this situation in Texas is just an unfriendly reminder that life is precious, it's very fragile, and things could go awry at any moment of any time. So please pay attention. And if you can support and send some money down to some of the nonprofits to help and aid the folks down there in Texas, that would be much appreciated. People are suffering here in St. Louis, Missouri due to the tornado on May 16th. As I said, there was $1.6 billion worth of damage. The city hasn't done much, and people want to get back into their homes. What does all of that do? Whether it's a Texas flood, whether it is the fires in California, the hurricane in North Carolina, Hurricane Helene, the tornadoes in St. Louis, what did that just do? It increased the numbers of people that are going to become homeless, helpless, and hopeless. And we need to change that narrative each and every day. We should be building strength and fortitude in each other and not tearing each other down through our immoral, unethical ways that we react to each other, let alone these natural disasters that are unexpected. Um, so this is unfortunate. And then thirdly, you talk about President Trump, who's trying to disband many of the alphabet organizations that are under the umbrella of the government. We know what he did to U.S. aid. There were some issues that were where FEMA was on his radar to dismantle FEMA. And guess what? FEMA is hard at work. Uh, they are probably strained from a staffing standpoint because guess what? They are out in North Carolina, they are in LA, they are in St. Louis, and of course, there's an issue with the Grand Canyon. Uh, could that turn into a complete mess? And the Red Cross, whether it's FEMA and even like the Red Cross down in the Texas flood, I don't know if FEMA necessarily will be down there if that's considered a huge. I know it's a natural disaster, uh, but um, FEMA is hard at work, and so we need to make sure we put a lot of pressure on our politicians, our city and state politicians, and of course our Congress people, our Senate folks, because remember, you have Congress, the Senate, you have the President, and you have the Supreme Court. They should all have checks and balances to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing. President Trump can't get all this stuff passed without the passage of the Senate and the Congress. And so FEMA needs to stay in existence. FEMA serves a huge purpose. FEMA is needed at the highest alert at this particular time. And we have to stay prayerful and understand that there is something out there that's greater than us. And just when you hear about these devastating things, and I know it's depressing to hear, we have to also realize that that can happen to us. There hadn't been a tornado in St. Louis City in at least 70 years, and it happened. And I was here to witness it. The same way in that Texas flood, there are parents that have lost their children that were thinking this would never happen, and it did. I lost my mother the day before I was 13 to cancer. She got sick from the time I was 9 to 13. And of course, I didn't understand it, wondered what was going on, why was it happening. But guess what? It happened. And I had to find a way to be strong and to survive and to make it through. And I had a younger brother and a younger sister. So we have to stay strong. What I will tell you about this world, whether we at the end of days or the end of time, or if there's some biblical signs that are taking place, I will tell you that your time is your most important commodity. And here in the future, the unforeseen will be seen and the unbelievable will become believable. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. Please check out my channel. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button when I do videos and tell stories about politics, about real life situations. We're trying to make this world a better place and raise up our moral and ethical compass each and every day to make our existence a valuable, friendly, and safe place to live on this earth. How do I get out of this thing? Ah, tell me. What do I do?